Hello and welcome into another episode of Friar Territory here on the Foul Territory Network. I'm Kyle Glaser. He's Mike Cameron. We're here to break down everything from opening weekend in Major League Baseball, including the Padres sweeping the Braves in a 4-game series to open the year. Obviously, a great start. Mike, first and foremost, we need to establish the fact that there is a lot of baseball left. No one wins a pennant on March 31st. A lot of times we see teams have great starts to a season, whether it's a great 2 months, great 3 months, great 4 months, and then things collapse at the end. So let's not go overboard with anything that happened on opening weekend in terms of declaring anyone all of a sudden a great team when we thought they weren't, or a bad team when we thought they might be good. I think it's important to keep everything in perspective. That being said, anytime you come out and sweep over 4 games, not 3, but a 4-game sweep against a very, very, very good team like the Braves to open the season, certainly gets you started off on the right foot.
Definitely, Kyle. I think, it just looks bad because it's the beginning of the season, as well as guys that, get off to like a slower start per se. And when you look at it, like the Padres just played really good baseball. They played good, clean baseball to beat the Braves, and their pitching was that much more dominant. I won't say dominant, but it was definitely more efficient than the past. And also the bullpen, the middling of the bullpen. The San Diego Padres won that particular. What am I looking for? What word am I looking for?
That battle, battle of the bullpen.
That battle.
Bullpen,
Jesus, exactly. So, I mean, it definitely is something that you can look forward to as you continue to view your teams and see how that goes. And no one expected the Braves to come out and lose 4 in a row. But look, we said this at the beginning of the season. San Diego Padres is a team that you have to be aware of because they are a previous playoff team. Although they lost some guys here and there, but they've had some key pitchers step up.
No question. And I think the biggest takeaway for me, I was down in San Diego covering the games Thursday and Friday. I wasn't able to be there Saturday, Sunday for my daughter's birthday, but obviously keeping a close eye on things. What really jumped out to me is we saw the resilience that we saw from last year's team. So last year, the Padres won 25 games in which they were tied or trailing in the 6th inning or later. This was a team that had a lot of comeback victories that showed a lot of poise in big game situations, late game situations. And to come out like they did, that was the main thing that stood out. The first 3 games of this series against the Braves, they were tied or trailing going into the 7th inning, and they won all 3 of those. And then, of course, they led the whole way in the series finale. But even then, it was a close game, 2-0 going into the 7th, and then boom, 3 more runs to put it away late. So this is a team that we saw last year really have a lot of resilience, stay composed in late game situations, didn't try to do too much. And I think the other thing, too, that really stood out is this is a team that plays with a lot of energy and an edge. What really jumped out to me this series, as well as that resilience, was they were doing a lot of the little things to put themselves in position to win the game late. 9 stolen bases in this series, a lot of first to thirds, beating out double play balls to keep innings alive, making great defensive plays, both the routine plays as well as the spectacular plays to keep the score close. All the little things that add up over the course of the game. I thought it was just really impressive how the Padres were playing resilient, aggressive, smart baseball, start to finish. That's what can separate the teams that are just talented on paper from the teams that are actually good when push comes to shove.
Definitely, Cal. I think when you look at these situations, as the Padres has gotten off to a good start, it's the little things that has allowed them to be in the position they're in to conquer a 4-game series off of the Braves. They kept them in the ballpark pretty much, but the Padres were doing the little things, the good stuff, the things that we talk about so much in spring training: going first to third, take the extra base. And, obviously the key hitting can come from anyone at any time, and it's a give or take on any team that can possibly happen. The Padres just happen to have the upper edge in this last series against the Braves in doing that. Key big homers from new guys
Yep.
per se. And so when you look at that and the start from Tatis and from Machado, the two pillars in there, and obviously the youngster in center field getting involved into this, into the action, it makes for a better situation for the team. It makes it easier for your teams to have a chance to come back when you stay close by playing good defense, and also when you're coming up with key hits and getting like base hit with 2 outs with people on base. Those 2 out ribbies, man, those will win you a lot of games. And it seems like the Padres has done a good job doing that. You said something about like just beating out double plays. That gives another opportunity for, you know, another at bat to come to the plate to levy more pitches on the opposition of the starting pitcher. And so that kind of, you got to formulate that, especially nowadays when they keep up with every single pitch and movement of the pitcher, you know, to consider it going forward later in the year.
Yeah, and top to bottom in the lineup, everyone contributed, and we'll dive deeper into it. Tatis was explosive at leadoff spot. Machado, big hits. Jake Cronenworth, a game-winning homer. Gavin Sheets, a huge game-tying homer. Even the guys at the bottom of the lineup, we talked about the question marks there, but Elias Diaz and Martin Maldonado, the first 2 games, won a combined 4 for 6. Yuli Gurriel had a big pinch hit single. So to a man, everyone was on their game. I think the main thing that really, really kind of jumped out to me, though, and you hit on this before, there were 2 moments that kind of exemplified the Padres playing good, smart, clean, aggressive baseball and doing all the little things, just keeping it up, the pressure on the opposing team until the dam eventually broke. So in the opener, there was a moment where after Manny Machado doubled, Xander Bogaerts was intentionally walked, Jackson Merrill's at the plate. No one would expect Xander Bogaerts and Manny Machado to be 2 guys executing a double steal. These are older players, you know, on the other side of 30, not speedsters. And they called a double steal, and they pulled it off with a lefty at the plate, Jackson Merrill at the plate. They really caught the Braves by surprise. Machado took third, Bogaerts took second, and that set up a sac fly. Merrill was able to bring Manny home. Also, Manny busting it down the line. Again, Manny Machado has a lot of gifts. Hustle has not always been his forte, but to see him execute double steal and then get down the line to beat a throw, bang, bang play at the plate, that was just a really, really impressive sequence to me. The Padres are going to, again, catch other teams off guard, be aggressive, double steal, take those extra 90, and then execute, get the run in with the sac fly. And then additionally, in the following game, that second inning where, again, twice in the same inning, they had guys bust it down the line, beat out double plays, keep the inning alive, and that set up Martin Maldonado for an RBI single. If those guys don't bust it down the line, the inning's over, and they never get that opportunity. So as much as we saw, again, the big home runs, the big doubles, the big plays, this is when special things happen, when you have the little things are being done. The big hits are, happening. The bullpen's on point. Everyone's coming together and playing tight, cohesive, high-quality baseball. And I think, to me, that was the overarching theme of the weekend, is the Padres played from start to finish clean, high-quality, aggressive, smart baseball.
Definitely. But I don't think Manny will be doing too much running here, taking those extra 90 in the near future. But, right now he's probably feeling fresh, legs feel good. And so he's taking advantage of those opportunities. And once again, that was a very big series to get started for the San Diego Padres out of the gate. I mean, look, I like the fact that Tatis is back in the leadoff spot. They've been tinkering him down in second sometimes or whatever. But like when you get lightning at the top, thunder and lightning right at the top of the lineup, it's dangerous from the first pitch as soon as he leaves the on deck circle. So it's good to see that also.
Yeah, that's a big thing I want to hit on. Tatis reached base in 9 of his 17 plate appearances at a leadoff spot. Again, we saw it right away. Opening day, goes 3 for 4 with 2 stolen bases at a leadoff spot. Second game, first pitch he sees leading off the bottom of the first, missile, home run, 400 plus feet into left center field bleachers, gets things going on the right foot. And again, the finale went 2 for 3, had an RBI double. So you're seeing that immediate impact out of the leadoff spot. And Mike, you put something interesting on social media where you were mentioning that a lot of people ask you who are your favorite players in the game today. And you mentioned Tatis is on that list for you. And you mentioned that his skill set reminds you of Alex Rodriguez, which is obviously extraordinarily high praise.
Yeah.
You played with A-Rod. You were a teammate of his with the Mariners in 2000, played against him a ton once he went to Texas and New York. What do you see in Tatis that reminds you of Alex Rodriguez, who, for all his issues and indiscretions,
Yeah,
was one of the greatest, most talented players of his generation?
most definitely. I just look at Tatis and see his size. That always reminds me of A Rod. He was a once of a shortstop. Obviously, A Rod didn't go to the outfield, but that in his offensive skill set though, I mean, it's a walking 40-40 if you want to every single year. I
Yeah.
mean, as long as the guys stay healthy. I mean, obviously, when we talk about 40-40, we're talking tongue in cheek because it's very well possible, but guys don't really want to run that much anymore, considering, Tatis coming off of some of the injuries. But if he's healthy, I mean, I believe the guys are walking 40-40. I mean, he can get 200 hits. I don't know if Tatis will walk as much as A-Rod, but as far as like all the other power numbers, the ability to really just carry an offense for a few months at a time. I mean, this guy is the complete package, and he is the electricity that starts that and down at Petco Park every single day, man. And I mean, he's a joy. I mean, obviously, I mean, he has a swag. I mean, he probably has a little more swag than A-Rod because the guys today can be really, really swagged out, and he got the cool shoes. I mean, he's got it all. So, and he's always, I mean, he's handsome and he's always smiling. So, it's a very similar, comparison when you're talking about Tatis and what he's capable of doing on the baseball field on a daily basis.
No question. And again, seeing the energy he brings, we talked about this in spring training. He looked great. He looked as healthy and as strong and just as in sync as he has really in many years. And to come out like he did this opening series, again, it's a long season. There's a lot of baseball left. He's got to stay healthy. But when Fernando Tatis Jr. is on point and in his rhythm, he's one of the most unstoppable forces in Major League Baseball. And we saw that this series. Every single game made a huge impact offensively. And even on the base paths, again, stole 2 bases that first game, really just set the tone. Mike, the other player offensively, and we'll get to some of the other guys, but one of the headline
Yeah,
guys that we've talked about a lot is Jackson Merrill. And will
yeah,
there be a sophomore slump? How successful will he be in year 2? Right away, he came out red hot in this opening
yeah,
series.
yeah,
The bat that really jumped out to me was in the opener. Chris Sale on the mound, who, look, is vicious against everybody, but
yeah,
especially lefties with that low
yeah,
slot. Jackson Merrill falls behind 1-2. Chris Sale throws that disgusting slider that you see lefties swing over all the time. And Merrill was caught out in front. And yet he kept his barrel back, poked it into center field. Boom, 2-run single. I mean, down 1-2 in
yeah,
the count. Chris Sale on the mound, big situation early. And he still just was able to put a good swing on the ball, even when he was caught out front a little bit. That 2-run
yeah,
single in the opener, that really set the tone. And throughout the series, his swing looks flawless right now. Again, he's always had a beautiful left-handed swing, but you're
yeah,
seeing hard contact back up the middle. You're seeing hard contact to his pull side, hard contact in the air to his pull side. You're seeing line drives the opposite way. Jackson Merrill, just his swing right now is the swing of a batting champion. He looks dialed in, on point. Nothing's catching him off guard. That was the other big takeaway in terms of offensive standouts this series. He looks like he's in prime form. 4 ribs in the opener and then kept on
yeah.
going.
Yeah, I mean, look, that really set the tone for the team in a sense. When you have a young guy in Jackson Merrill having very mature at bats against a guy in the likes of Chris Sale. I mean, when we talk about it, like it just shows that his maturity level is there. He also understands that I don't need to try to do too much. I'm surrounded by some other talented guys, but I am one of the main guys to be a contributor with this. And the fact that he's able to do this, it just goes to show you that he has great. His bat control is really good. I saw that as him being a shortstop as 17, 18-year-old when he came, playing over on the backfields and everything, and then get a chance to come over in some spring training games. I always saw the guy could hit. I saw him having these quality at bats in spring training against some of our better pitchers or whatever. So, and he was very young at that time. Not to say that he's much older now, but he just have those very mature at bats, man. He just has an understanding of what he needs to do with himself and his swing.
No question about it. One of the big things that really helped the Padres win 93 games last year was contributions top to bottom of the lineup. I think we have to remember Last year, Fernando Tatis Jr. missed 2 months with an injury. Manny Machado was
Yeah.
not healthy the entire first half of the year. Xander, was not. He was playing, but he was not in peak form. Got off to the slowest start of his career. Xander Bogaerts missed most of the first half. Ha-Seong Kim took a step backwards. But the
Yeah.
Padres got big contributions up and down the lineup from unexpected sources. And Gavin Sheets is someone that we've talked about this year as a guy who could be one of those unheralded pickups who comes out and has a big year for the Padres. And we saw that opening day, game tying home run, his first at bat as a Padre, just an absolute shot to center field. Next game gets his first start. And even though he was 1 for 4, hit a hard single. He had 2 fly balls that were long, high drives. He just missed. Then he had
Yeah.
another hard ground ball the other way. Nick Allen made a great play to rob him of a single. Then he comes out yesterday. He's 2 for 4 again. I really think the Padres got something here. And I've talked about this a little bit, but it bears repeating. The smart teams understand where the low hanging fruit is. They understand
Yes.
which organizations develop guys well and which organizations don't develop guys well. For a long time, the Pirates were an organization where if you got a pitcher from the Pirates, you knew that there was more in there. Garrett Cole, Tyler
Yeah.
Glasnow, Joe Musgrove, all had shown flashes, but just the Pirates structurally, their coaches, just the way they were set up, what they were teaching was not going, you were not going to see the best of those guys while they were with the Pittsburgh Pirates. You could bring them into your own system and you could expect to get a little more out of them. The White Sox are that team now when it comes to position players. You look
Yeah.
at Luis Robert, you look at Yohan
Yeah.
Moncada, you look at Eloy Jimenez, you look at Andrew Vaughn. All these guys are guys who can hit. And some of them
Yes.
had flashes with the White Sox for a year, but they were never able to have any real sustained success. And look, organizationally, the White Sox have had a lot of issues with player development, coaching. I mean, that's how you go 41 and 121.
Yeah.
Gavin Sheets falls into this bucket. He could hit at Force, he could rake. Through the minors, he
Yes.
could hit. He's always hit. The questions were more defensive based. And with the White Sox, again, just it never came together. And it wasn't a him problem, it was a White Sox problem. Padres get him in. I talked to him a little bit before the opener on Friday. He's adjusted his posture. He's a little more upright now. And the Padres have overhauled his approach. Use the big part of the field. You're big and strong enough to go yard any part of the park. You don't need to be a pure pull hitter. And we're
Yeah.
seeing that. His home run was to dead center. There's hard
Yeah.
contact to the pull side, to the opposite field. I really think the Padres got something here. And again, it just goes back to the smart teams know where the low hanging fruit is. And just as Pirates pitchers used to be the low hanging fruit, White Sox position players are the low hanging fruit. And the Padres took advantage of it in a big way with Gavin Sheets.
Yes, Kyle. When we're talking about a guy in Gavin Sheets, we know that he has this big prowess. The one thing I think, just seeing him this spring, he looks a lot much more comfortable at the plate, and it was evident with some of the rockets that he hit against us. Playing against playing against the Padres from the Mariners, and
Yeah.
seeing that, and I just saw that the fact that that they're telling him to clean up his posture a little bit and use the big part of the field. You're going to get a chance to display the skill set you displayed at Wake Forest as
Yeah.
a hitter. I hate when they bring guys in, sometimes with the new analytical data, they try to change guys and say, hey, you need to do this to be successful, when the guy has already had success as a professional in the
Yeah.
minors and also in college. So why would I try to make him something before he understands, what he can become? And this is what, obviously, here you said the low hanging fruit, but I contributed to the Padres front office and them having those real boots on the ground scouts and understanding that this is the way that you have to allow a player to become what he is, and maybe give him a little more adjustments according to what his body type is, and allow him to make some adjustments himself. And hopefully he's going to get a chance to play over there with the Padres, and is probably going to get a chance to do it every day. So that's going to be very valuable to the team in itself when you have a guy who has this type of capabilities to do some damage. We may need to change that little 20 homer thing, I think it was, that we said it was going to be, the over and under. So, with him getting the opportunity to do it on a daily basis, it could really pay dividends for the team moving forward.
Yeah, a great scouting job by the Padres. And we saw last year Donovan Solano and David Peralta were two minor league pickups, Jeremiah Estrada as well, all of whom played really big roles for the Padres last year. I think Gavin Sheets is this year's version. And I think, too, we talked about Martin Maldonado and Elias Diaz. Catchers, bottom of
Yeah.
the lineup, you're not expecting much. 4 for 6, couple big hits, driving in some runs. Yuli Gurriel, whose struggles we talked about, came through with a pinch hit RBI single that was the only run of the game on Saturday. What really jumped out to me about the Padres offense as a whole, and we saw this last year too, I just have to say Victor Rodriguez is a brilliant hitting coach, and you can speak to
Yeah.
this.
Oh, no doubt.
Just so much hard contact up through the middle of the field. And don't get me wrong, there were some hard shots to the pull side, right-handed, left-handed hitters too, but you saw consistent hard contact up through the middle of the field, quality at bats from the first inning to the last. Strikeouts happen, but there were no
Yeah.
situations where they're expanding the zone or swinging out of their ass or just out of control. Everything is just quality at bats, and that consistent hard contact up through the middle of the field. That to me just speaks to a great approach that's been imparted by Victor Rodriguez. And look, the Padres scored 17 runs in the series. Only 3 of them were on home runs. This isn't a team that's dependent on the long
Yeah.
ball. They're a team that can kill you in so many different ways. And those are the best kinds of offenses, the dynamic offenses that, hey, they can string together 5 straight hits. They can, knock doubles into the gaps. They can race around the bag for triples. They can go yard when they need to. This is a really dynamic offense. And you can speak to Victor Rodriguez and what he teaches because his arrival last year has just completely transformed the identity of the Padres lineup from previous years.
Yes. I mean, I had Victor in Boston, obviously, one of the better guys, and he went to Cleveland, and you saw what their production turned into. His verbiage is very simple, and then again, you got to look at where they're playing at. You're playing in Petco Park. It's not one of the most prolific home run places, but during the day, the ball definitely carries there. And during the summer, it definitely carries a little bit better. But I think the Padres have a unique offense because their top 4 or 5 guys don't strike out very much. And Tatis, Cromwell, maybe a little bit.
I mean,
Cromwell's a little bit.
Luis Arias never strikes out. So
We already know he doesn't never strike out, And
yeah.
then Manny puts the ball in play, and then you have
But
Tatis.
Bogarts, again, not a big strikeout
Bogarts
guy.
doesn't know, and Bogarts he had Victor in Boston, so I think it's just a constant reminder of having a guy like that who's very experienced and has very good knowledge of the game to be able to help some of the guys now and really becoming who they really are as a player. And when you have a guy like that everyone understands the verbiage and understand what they're capable of doing, it makes for a simpler ball game when you don't have to go out and say somebody says you got to pull the ball in the air all the time to the pull side, or just, basically now it's back to really simple baseball. Like, we got good hitters here, so let's use the field as we do as good hitters and really stay to the middle of the field. And we're going to do damage just because of the players and the capabilities and the understandings that we have. You spoke on, the catchers, it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out because I know that what's his name? I know Elias is a very good player, and the veteran. Oh
Maldonado
gosh,
hit 119 last year. I mean,
yeah, that's
but the thing I noticed with him is, again, just simple, compact line drive swings. Drop some line drives in front of the center fielder, and I mean,
yeah,
that's all you need from him. Just, hey, keep it
yeah,
simple. A couple line
yeah.
drives into the outfield, and that'll do it. You don't need him to try and yank and crank and hit a bunch of bombs, which he's not really capable of. And I think that's again the Padres' approaches. They don't expand the strike zone. They stay in the middle of the field. And you mentioned Xander Bogaerts too. That was one of the big things I took away from the series as well. Is he's back to making hard contact. He had a lot of hard line drives this series, which, just to be frank, his last 2 years with the Padres, they kind of come and go. He hasn't been fully right. He'd have flashes here and there, but I think that was a good sign because if he can get back to, the doubles machine that we saw in his heyday in Boston, those hard line drives and, hit 280 with a bunch of doubles and get 15 to 20 homers, that will be more than enough for the Padres.
Yeah, Kyle. Especially, we're talking about Bogarts. I mean, we're talking about a very accomplished hitter coming from a very large market team that understands how to play championship baseball.
Yeah.
He's always been good at what he does, and I don't know, when you start getting older players, you start to think about, are some of the little nagging injuries that can impact you over the course of time. Maybe it's the constant position change and understanding that, allowing settling your ego on that. It may be just the fact. It may be just the fact that he's don't have to think as much. He's comfortable
Yeah.
at shortstop, and that's always a comfort in itself. But Bogarts has always been a very professional hitter since his younger days in Boston. It's just a matter of keeping the guy healthy enough to contribute in the way that he does when he goes about his at bats for a championship caliber ball club.
Absolutely. Mike, we've talked a lot about the offense. Again,
Yeah,
big home runs, first to third, stealing bases, hard line drives up to the middle of the field. It was a really complete effort offensively, everything you want to see. But the pitching staff was really the star of this series, holding the Braves,
yeah,
a really good Braves offense, full of studs at the top. 7 runs in 4 games. Just an exceptional job by the pitching staff, including back-to-back shutouts in the final 2 games of the series. And really what was impressive about that, again, keeping the Braves to 7 runs in 4 games, and that was with Michael King and Dylan Cease, their top 2 healthy starters, not being
yeah,
able to complete 5 innings. This was
yeah,
a really, really exceptional job by the bullpen, as well as from Nick Pivetta and Randy Vasquez. I want to start with the bullpen. We talked about those comebacks early in the series, the first 2 days especially. The bullpen held the line, and that's what gave the offense time to come back. So, opener, Michael King only gets through 2 2/3 innings, really struggles with his control. And when he does throw strikes, it gets hit hard. We saw 91 down the middle to Ozzie Albies, and Albies crushed it. Just did not have
yeah,
his stuff that day.
yeah,
Alec Jacob came in, gave up a homer to Austin Riley. But after that, to finish out the game, Padres bullpen threw 5 1/3 hitless innings, 5 1/3 no hit innings against the Braves to finish off the opener. Game
yeah,
2, Dylan Cease gets through 4 1/3. Bullpen comes in 5 2/3 scoreless innings with 1 hit allowed. Only allowed 3 base runners. I mean, this was a dominant effort by the bullpen, especially in games 1 and 2, to hold the line, completely shut down the Braves offense, give the Padres offense time to come back. And I think with the Padres too, we talked about coming into the year, there were some question marks in terms of the bottom third of the lineup. There were some
yeah.
question marks at the back of the rotation, but you knew this bullpen was going to be a strength. They had a really,
Yes.
really good middle relief core, a dominant back end, and we really saw that. And then, of course, Nick Pivetta and Randy Vasquez come out. Vasquez throws 6 scoreless in game 3. Pivetta, 7 scoreless with 1 hit allowed in the
Yeah.
finale. Bullpen came in, shut it down. A really impressive job by the pitchers, really top to bottom. But I think really the bullpen, it was just such a dominant effort against a great offense. It really stood out.
Yeah, definitely. I think the one thing that you have to contribute is, when you're thinking about this, when you're adding some, younger guys per se in the back of your bullpen, and obviously Pavetta is not a real young guy, but he's been around. Um, you know, you're thinking about that because of the makeup of your bullpen
Yeah.
that can probably get you, through some of the shortcomings per se with some of the guys. But we've known that, so we saw that there's one reason why the Padres were in the playoffs last year, because of this bullpen that they had. And obviously they lost a couple of pieces, but at the same time they've added some guys that understand what it takes to do the job, and they got the job done very, 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 very well against a really good quality Atlanta Braves team. Look, it probably won't look like that. The Braves team won't look like that, in May and June when Acuna comes back.
Right.
But we know that, the Padres know going into or after this series, they are, look pretty good. They've got to feel pretty good about themselves and shutting down a very capable Braves team. And with that being said, also, I think that, getting what they got out of Pavetta in that first start is only going to build his confidence even more, and that also saved the bullpen a few innings, moving into the next series.
Yeah, it's encouraging. They went 4-0, and there's still areas for improvement. You know that Michael King and Dylan Cease aren't going to fail to get through 5 innings very often this season. they're going to be better. Luis Arias has started off slow. He's not going to go hitless for very long. So they're a really, really good team. It's not like every single thing was perfect. I mean, but they had a lot of guys contribute, make things happen, and
Yeah.
they're in a great position because of it. Mike, the Padres open with a 3-game series against Cleveland beginning today. I will be down there again back at Petco Park covering the series.
Yeah.
You've been part of teams that have gotten off to red hot starts. You've been part of teams that have gotten off to slow starts. What are the keys to watch after a great series opener where everything seems like it's firing on all cylinders? What do you want to see from teams moving into their next series, the next few weeks, and just, to kind of maintain the momentum, if you will?
Well, a lot of it, Kyle, is just the comfort. Your guys are at home, they're getting settled in. They've had the 4 games. You got the festivities out of the way, those type of things. And it's just baseball. It's like every day now. So the guys are comfortable, but they're also going into this next series feeling very good about themselves. And it's like, how can we maintain this? And it starts obviously with the starting pitching. Cleveland is another one of those teams that play very solid. They got really good starting pitching. They don't swing and miss very much. They probably not going to bang you around the ballpark. They lost in J-Ram, they lost their guy at third base. So that's going to play a very big interest into this series or whatever. But at the same time, the Padres they're at home. They have a very good start and they're looking to continue that. And it's, once again, I say it starts with starting pitching, because the offense will evolve and continue to evolve on a daily basis. But everything starts with the top at starting pitching and see how it goes from there.
Yeah, Kyle Hart's going to make his first start since coming back from Korea, and then we'll see Cease and King get their second starts of the year, see if they're able to bounce back. But again, Padres 4-0, sweeping the Braves at home over a 4-game series. Offense was on point. Pitching staff was on point. Defense was on point. Didn't even mention Jackson Merrill and Braden Lockridge robbing home runs, Machado snagging hardliners at third. It was about as good of a start as anyone could have hoped for. We'll see if the Padres are able to maintain it. Mike, any final thoughts here as we wrap up?
No, not much. I hope everybody start using the torpedo bats so they can just get out to the Yankees. And the torpedo bats may work over in Petco too. So, yeah, I mean, but you already have some couple of torpedoes in your lineup already, and Machado and Tatis at the top.
No question about it. And the Padres offense, again, look good to start. We'll see if they're able to maintain it. And who knows if they're able to bring those bats over. Machado made a comment about that. So we'll see if they're able to start banging like the Yankees. Mike, this has been great. This has been another edition of Friar Territory here on the Foul Territory Network. Go ahead and give us a review on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, whatever platform you're watching, listening on. Like, subscribe, leave us a review. We would love to hear from you. It helps us out. Once again, for Mike Cameron, I'm Kyle Glaser. Thanks for watching and listening. See you later this week.